Welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxy and I am the crafter behind Roxy's Craft. Welcome to the fourth recap video of what I have made this past week. If you haven't watched my previous videos, I am doing these weekly roundups or recaps of everything I'm making in preparation for a event I will be attending on the 13th of June. I'm making these videos to hold myself accountable that I am, making things fast enough and I'm making enough for this event. So this week actually saw me really getting a bit more hands-on on actually market prepping, because I didn't need to do any pattern tests and I didn't need to make any items for gifts or anything like that. So I was really able to just go hands down just market prepping, and I managed to do, I guess, some of the things that I wanted to do or that I had planned from the last week's video. Some of them I kind of deterred, and I did a little bit of testing of patterns that I had previously bought just to figure out what kind of items I do actually want to make, or what particular patterns I want to use for the items that I want to make. As I had said in the previous video, I wasn't able to crochet this weekend. Today is Monday, the 27th of April, but the 25th and 26th I couldn't, because I went to a anime convention or pop culture convention called Armageddon. I cosplayed as an attendee. I was CL from Expedition 33, a game that I absolutely love. I was able to meet Jennifer English, who is the voice of Mayel, and that was honestly so awesome. Really enjoyed it. However, because I didn't crochet for 2 whole days, I didn't get as much done as I had hoped. So this week I will really have to crank it out, and I'm sure, as you can tell, I've already had to start K-taping my hand, because this one particular color that I'm using for Totoro's is a little bit starchy and dry, and it's just pulling my tendons a bit too much. So I'm doing this as more of, an in-case situation, because I know dry yarn like that does tend to flare up my tendonitis. So hopefully this K-tape today will help me crochet more Totoros, or get most of them done today without any pain. So I guess let's begin showing you everything that I've made this week. Okay, so first thing that I made and finished this week was the Ninja Turtle keychains. So I made 2 of every color, which means there is a total of 8. I'll show you an example of one of them up close. I had free-handed this pattern. I kind of went off No Way Jose's pattern that I was using for my bigger turtles. I kind of just, very similar, did the top part, and then the bottom part I kind of just free-handed and made my own little pattern. The yarn I had used was Patty's Plush, Lorikeet Dingo. I believe this is the blue is Fairy Vern, the red is Rosella, and the purple is Starfish, if I'm not mistaken. I do have a notebook down here just so I'm capturing everything that I wish to say. I had used a 4mm hook to make them, nice and small for a keychain, and I had used 12mm safety eyes, and yeah, I am so chuffed with them. I really hope that they're popular. I'll probably take some extra yarn on the day to make some more in case they are. So once I finished the Ninja Turtles, I went on to restocking my little Totoro keychains. I only had to make 3, so this went pretty fast. I did it within one night. Hallelujah. This is what they look like. Just little cute and pudgy Totoro keychains. Looking down at my little notebook over here, I had used Patty's Plush, in koala and cockatoo, so grey and white. The little felt that I had used was 10 millimeters, 10mm circle that I had cut out. The little eyes are 7 millimeters, and the hook size I had used was a 4.5 millimeter, and obviously I had used just a little bit of black cotton just for the little mouth. And then obviously, keychain findings. The pattern is from Threads and Colors Art. It was a free Instagram pattern, however it has since been removed, but I will still link the pattern designer and their Instagram page down below if you are interested, just to see all the other free keychains that they have up on offer on their webpage. There's tons, and it's, like I said, it comes out a really lovely size. I highly recommend like all of their keychains. Now, because the 3 little Totoros only took me one evening to make, I then had another evening to spare, so of course I did the Kirby's next because these are also a really fast, easy make for me. I made 6 of them in total. I will show you a little close-up of what one looks like. This little Kirby has been made with a yarn called Nako Panda. Here is an example of what the skein looks like. The colors don't actually have a name. They only have numbers, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what the actual color is called, but this yarn is so soft, so fluffy, way softer than even Parfait Chunky. It's gorgeous yarn. However, only one shop here in Auckland sells it, and it is quite expensive. It's $12.20 for a skein, or $12.90. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have the conversions up on the screen, but very expensive. But because these little keychains are so small, I don't mind, because I can get tons of keychains out of one skein of yarn. So this is the darker color for the little feet that I use. As for the other details, I had used a 5mm hook because this yarn is the exact same size as Parfait Chunky. I had used some darker pink cotton yarn for the little blush, and the eyes are 12mm kawaii eyes that I got from online, and the pattern is also a free pattern from Instagram. I believe the designer is called Nemo Crochet. I'll as well have that linked in the description if you wish to make it. But yeah, perfect little size for a keychain. So once I had finished all of this, it was already Friday, and I did have the day off. I pre-booked an annual day off last year already, just so I could have like a really nice long weekend. I unfortunately had quite a lot of errands to run that day, including a dentist, which I did not enjoy. It was just my annual checkup, so nothing special. And I did make a start on the little Totoros. However, I only managed to get one done, and I don't even have the little ears or the little flower. It was literally just the base of, it's just the body. And yeah, like I said, I felt that this particular skein of seal from Parfait Chunky is just very dry and really tough to work with. So yeah, unfortunately I've got 2 from that particular batch, so hopefully this K-tape today is going to help me do some more of these. So yes, hopefully by the next recap video you'll be able to see 4 of these completed. I'm only going to make 4. They're not too popular, I had noticed in my last 2 conventions, so yeah, I think 4 is plenty to have on my racks, and I'm a little bit bummed that I couldn't finish them all, but like I said, I had some errands to run, and I admittedly also got a bit distracted because I wanted to just kind of get a, you know, like I had made mention, a kind of feel for what patterns I want to use for my other kind of Pokemon that I wish to make. I normally just make Gen 1 Pokemon, but I would really like to do Gen 2 and also all the evolutions, because Pokemon is really popular at the moment, and I am vending at a convention or an event that is literally retro, so you know, Pokemon will definitely be a popular item to have on the table. So I'm just going to look down at my book. So on Friday, after I made that little Totoro, I was like, I'm not going to continue on. That yarn's awful to work with. I'm going to have a little bit of a play, see, you know, see different patterns, see what I like. So here was the first one that I made, a little chikorita, or I should say a massive chikorita. It's huge. I didn't expect it to be so big. I had used Parfait Chunky with a 5mm hook in Key Lime Pistachio. The eyes are 16mm kawaii eyes, which suited the pattern very well. It is completely no-sew, except for obviously the leaf that you sew on, which is really easy. The pattern is free on Instagram by the Lazy Frog Co. I believe that's their name. I'll again have it linked down below, but yeah, fairly easy, quick make. However, quite big, and dare I say it actually used like 30 grams of yarn, of the key lime yarn, so I was like, ooh, probably a bit too big for what I'm looking for, but I'll find a little spot for this particular chikorita, because I won't be making any more of this particular pattern, but hopefully, you know, somebody will buy it and give it a forever home. So from there, I obviously bought a lot of the Big Mate Studio little plushies way back when they had a birthday sale earlier on this year, and so I made two little more Pokemon. So I made another Chikorita and I made a little Eevee. I'll first talk about the Chikorita. So like I said, Big Mate Studio. This one in particular is made out of Parfait Chunky, and as well again Key Lime and Pistachio. The eyes were 12mm, and I actually had used a 5.5mm hook because I wanted it a little bit bigger. I didn't want, you know, even smaller of a make. I want something slightly bigger, but not too big like this one I had made. However, I found that for how much, like, you know, for how long it took me to make this, I don't know if the size was really worth it, because I really can't charge more than $12 for something this small. $12 New Zealand. I'll have the conversions up on the screen, but otherwise if I ask $15 for this, no one will buy it, and even $12 is probably a push. I don't know if there would be very many willing people to pay $12 for this. The people are very reluctant to spend a lot of money on handmade crafts like this, especially at places that aren't like anime conventions, for instance. So I am a little bit wary of, you know, size and all of that in accordance to how much I charge, but I still really liked it. It was very cute. It was actually very quick to make, a little bit of sewing, so it was cute. I then went on to see how the pattern would end up with Yarnsmith yarn, because the Yarnsmith chenille is slightly bit thicker. I knew it would end up, you know, just that slightly bit bigger. So as you can see, it's maybe just one round taller and just maybe a slightly bit punchier. So I made little Eevee, again Big Mate Studio. I had used rust for the main colour, and here for the little back of the tail I had used oatmeal, and then I had some furry yarn just from Spotlight. I believe it's Otis fur or something like that for the little fluff. and the eyes I had used was 12 millimeters, and I had used a 5.5 millimeter hook. And I did like this a little bit more. However, I don't really have all the colors that I require if I want to make all the evolutions and all the Gen 2 Pokemon in Yarnsmith, but I do have it in Parfait Chunky because I had originally planned to make them all in Parfait Chunky. So I might just have to bite the bullet and just, you know, make smaller little ones and just hope that it sells for $12, because I feel like somebody would be more inclined to buy something a little bit bigger like this for $12, but I guess we'll see. Yeah. So that's kind of everything that I made this week. I'm quite happy that I was able to do quite a lot of keychains. Like I said, I only really get to crochet for an hour or two every night, and then, you know, my weekend wasn't very productive since I wasn't actually home, and I was coming home around 5:36 both Saturday and Sunday evening, and I was just way too exhausted to crochet. If you've ever been to anime conventions and, you know, cosplay at the same time, I am sure one would understand exactly how exhausted you are. Even today, it's a public holiday here, I feel exhausted. My shoulders hurt, my arms hurt, everything hurts, my voice hurts. It's been a long weekend. However, but before I do let you go, I did get a sneaky yarn order that came in. I had placed this particular order at Crafts Online Australia about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Some of the colours that I needed wasn't available or isn't in stock at Flock of Knitters. However, I did see it in stock at Craft Online. The shipping was a little bit more expensive, but I don't mind. It's not really going to bite into my profit margin, so I was happy to place the order, and I kind of really need these colours because yes, I was placing a lot of yarn orders earlier this week, as you know, if you potentially saw the previous videos. However, I had realized that I never actually ordered some very, you know, some particular staple colors that I needed, like light blue, and particularly this coming week I thought, oh, I might want to get down and start making some Squirtles and some, you know, actual Pikachus and other Pokemon. And then I realized, oh no, like 2 of the main colors that I need I actually don't have. I have like 1 and a bit skein, and that's not enough because you know, it's just not enough. I can only get 4 turtles out of 1 skein, so I was like, nope, I need to place an order. I need a couple more. So I'll quickly show you all the yarn that I got. It looks like a lot, but it's not too much, I promise. So the yarn order, I'll start off with the loose yarn. So I got 1 of the ballet pink. It was literally their last one that they had in stock. For some reason, between Australia and New Zealand, there are some particular colours that you just can't find in stock at the moment, and I had reached out to both companies about it, and they said that they're having manufacturer and shipping issues. But it's very unusual because if you go on the Premier website, everything's in stock, so I'm not quite too sure how these Australian and New Zealand suppliers work, but they clearly don't get it from the Premier website. I'm not too sure if maybe they're getting it from the actual factory that's making it, or who knows. But 1 ballet pink, I got 1 bubblegum. This is going to be for Patrick, definitely for Patrick, nobody else. And then the other 2 final loose skeins that I got was 2 key limes, Grogu. I was going to do some more for Chicaritas as well, and yeah, that's really it. And then I got 4 packs of 3s for just 4 different colors. So I got 1 pack for Teddy Bear, I did not realize that I was running as dry as I was. I only had whatever I had purchased in, in my previous yarn haul, and I was like, oh, I actually need some more for my Eevees, especially because I really want to make one of those Snuggle Beans crochet Eevees, and that takes at least half a skein, so I was like, oh no, I actually really need some more. So got some more teddy bear. I got the staple white, so 3 of those. And then, like I had said, I got 3 of the light blue because, again, only had 1.5 skeins left, and that is not enough for what I wish to do with it. And last but not least, I got 3 sunshines, which SpongeBob and Pikachu, and perhaps some of the Pokemons, yeah, for evolutions and etc. as well. Perhaps Psyduck. We'll see. Cyndaquil maybe as well, but yeah, I'm happy. Now I got all the yarn. So that's kind of all that I have to show for this recap. I guess my plans for going forward, I really obviously want to finish all the Totoros. That's my plan, to finish 4 of them in total, so by the next recap you can see them all, and then I'll share all the details like the pattern and then everything that I use. From there I did plan to make some itty bitty demi gorgons or demo gorgons. I'm not too sure if I'll still go with that because I kind of feel really excited to make some Pokemon, so I might hold off the demo gorgons and just maybe make a start on the Pokemon, but we'll see. I don't have anything in particular in mind because basically everything on my list is important and I kind of have to make everything anyway, so but yeah, we'll see, I guess. And that's really it, what I have to show. I have quite a busy week of work ahead of me, both crochet wise and actual work. But that's all that I have for you. It's just a nice short video this week. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. Leave a comment if you wish to chat. Happy to talk and happy to respond if you have any questions. And other than that, I will see you next week. Bye bye!